So, Dr. Obi, thank you for your time. I am grateful. Thank you for your time. It's been a time well spent. So now we'll be talking about verbal abuse, bullying. Sometimes we leave things for God to deal with. Okay, we just say, oh, this, or we just keep praying about it and we don't do anything. Can you please shed more light on it? You could use maybe personal. Sometimes online we are careful of sharing personal stories. We just want things, but you can just say whatever you want to say with regards to abuse, verbal abuse, home, even children. They face abuse. There are some people that say, oh, their parents said to them they will never make it. Indeed. And then those children will now live with those kind of traumas. What they keep hearing is that a parent has said they can never make it. A parent has said they are this, they are bad, they can never turn out well. Wow. That's not right.
Are you looking at for people in diaspora?
For people in diaspora, home and abroad, and then also like talking about people facing bullying at work and they don't even say anything, they are not active about it, and these people, what they intend to do is to actually destroy them. Perhaps in their workplaces, and they don't talk, they just feel God will do it.
It's really difficult because Dr. Sheon, when we do when we want to work with people, we're formulating based on their past, where they're coming from. It's really difficult. Number one, you need to think about concepts like colonialism.
Wow.
And its impact.
That's shattering.
And its impact on how we think about ourselves in this country. It's very difficult. You need to, I guess, surround yourself around other Nigerians. It's not, I'm not saying, you must, but I think that there are people who have gone ahead of us, who have experiences, they fought these battles, and they know by experience, so that they can consistently remind you that you're good enough. Because from the view or the mindset of colonialism, there could be an assumption that you're not good enough.
Because of the skin color, and this is real.
Yeah, you have to really be careful and surround yourself by people who remind you that you did study this, you sat down, you read, you passed, or that you know your job and that you are right in doing your job. When it comes to bullying at work, a lot of people do not speak because, like I said, if our orientation, number one, colonialism puts us at a disadvantage. Number two, our religious leaders are saying to us from the pulpit that if there's an injustice, the understanding is to leave it to God.
Leave it to God.
No, but the likes of Nehemiah. So if we look at the life of Nehemiah in the book of Nehemiah chapter 4, when things Sanballat and Tobias and the Arabs and whatever it is, they came against him, you know what that man did? He prayed, but he also stood watch. There was an action.
They had their tools.
Yes. You don't allow bullying to thrive because what it does to you. So I will give an example, and I will try as much as possible not to be too deep from the work that I do. So I'm running a group today, and we were talking about how we want you to. It's a CBT group. Practice this, practice that. And we were trying to teach people how to do emotional exposure. And the person asked, okay, so what kind of example can we use so that we can start working on our emotions? And I was trying to say, oh, perhaps this one. And you know what someone said? The person said, I remember in primary school, my English teacher asked me to read a page of a chapter of an English text. I couldn't read it. She called me stupid, and I was moved to a dance class. I was bullied because I couldn't read. Now, children are funny. In those days, you find it funny. But she's saying 30 years later, I'm being diagnosed of dyslexia. Yeah? And that memory has really and truly impacted my self-esteem. So if you allow yourself to be bullied at work, you may think to yourself that, I'm just praying about it. But every human being has a threshold. At some point, you are going to break.
Wow. Yes.
At some point, if you're not someone who is given to not necessarily fighting for yourself, but speaking up and asking for help. Go and read work guidelines.
Wow.
Call HR, speak to somebody.
Anti-bullying policies.
Yes. At some
Spell it
point,
out.
you are going to break. And that break will be about how you think about yourself. Because bullying is to make someone feel less than they are.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Obi. Let me just quickly interrupt a bit. I remember a situation, and the lady, said, "So tell people about me. I don't want people to go through what I've been through." It happened that this particular person was being bullied at work, and they tagged her as lacking competences. And then there were some things that happened. I would not really go too much into the story. All of a sudden, she called police. She wanted to kill herself. This is a Nigerian. She wanted to kill herself. I remembered, by 10 a.m. that morning, I was speaking with the police. My hands were literally shaking. I was like, God. And I was in somebody's house and they were like, what happened? I just couldn't, I just couldn't hold myself. Like, why would somebody go through this? And, thank God she's fine now, but she knows where she had been, what she had gone through, and she tells me, tell people about my story. I don't want people to get there. She had gotten to the point that she's open about herself, and at another point in time, this particular lady said, "Oh, I should watch out for somebody who I don't even know." I didn't look out for the person, but at some point I heard news saying that somebody was always doing recording video. And when I heard it was the same person, I said, this person is doing suicidal diary. That is what they call it. Suicidal and a Nigerian as well. And I'm like, I have to tell people that, no, please, you have to look out for this. And they're like, it's true that she always say, oh, my last days, just check me out, putting it on social media. And I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So like Dr. Obi has said, we must not live isolatedly. Don't say, oh, because they are Nigerians. We need a community. Don't suffer in silence. People need to start opening up. I remember when we first started attending church in London, your church then. You're always talking to us and the people saying, oh, abuse is real. You're always talking, and some people say, this psychologist has come in. I never told you this until today. And you're always talking about abuse trauma, and I didn't really understand those things. Like I even said to you before we started recording that the very first time I got to know about domestic violence was when I came to the UK. I was always seeing it on billboards. Domestic violence
the back
is
of toilets.
As in, like, I never knew because I was naive. Well, I don't know if I'm still naive, but God is helping me. God is bringing me out of that naivety to see that the world is real. People are wicked more than we think.
It's also important when we talk about bullying and threats to also pay attention to our children. Because there are loads of children self-harming, cutting up themselves because of bullying in school. And perhaps parents not paying attention. There are little cues that a child can give to you. Even the ones that really feel like they are teenagers, they can't talk. There are little subtle cues that they can give, and you start noticing that something is going on. That you don't complain at work doesn't mean that if your child complains that they are wrong. Make sure that you investigate. Push as much as you can, and then ensure that you've tried your best. But if it means pulling down the skies to ensure that they're listening to you, do it. Do it.
And that may go against your religious beliefs, or do it. Because if our children should lose trust in us, if we don't pay attention to them and we are not a voice to them, they would not tell us things and we would lose them. It's real. It's not like the way we were parented, back those days. Whether anything, you're still, your mom is still your mom, your dad is still. But the children of nowadays,
but I tell you, the other thing is that this exact thing you were saying. I was speaking to my husband and we were talking about this because we tend to talk about it a lot. And my husband said, "What's the difference between our understanding of our parents and this current understanding of our parents?" And I said to him, "Look at the environment. If you're raised in Nigeria, whatever that could be happening in your home." It's happening in the home of your friend, it's happening in the home of this, it's happening in the home of that. Here, it may not be that way. So where the way that you're parenting your child as a Nigerian, many Nigerians have gotten into trouble because of this. The way they parent from, you just bring Nigeria into the home. The way you're parenting your child is not the way that the other family that is in her class is parenting. So when she says the things that happen is out of place. But when we grew up, anything you say is not out of place.
It's common.
It is common. So
and then you invite social workers
Absolutely.
because, and the truth is, being in the diaspora, people are trained, even on the trains, you say, see it, speak out,
say it,
sort it,
say it,
sort it out, and I remember when this thing actually started, it was I think 2016, where there were a bit of terrorist attacks in the UK. You could just be on the train and everything, and then they started. So people are raised there to speak out,
Absolutely.
not to die in silence, because a lot of times our people would die in silence. Even things that are meant to actually, if people we are meant to talk to, we don't talk to them. We look down. Not everybody. Some people look down on others, or they've just given up hope, and they feel they need to. They can just. Sorry about that. Oh, and they think they can just live like that continuously. One thing abuse does is that abuse destroys people. So we would not tell you to stay in abusive relationships. We will not tell you to stay in abusive places, whether workplaces, wherever. Abuse destroys people. It makes people lose their sense of purpose.
Absolutely.
And please watch out for the next episode. We don't want this to be too long. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.